people are trying to steal my gender, it's personal. Before you watch this video, let me know in the comments whose gender you want to steal. Hello, underachievers. So you may have realized that I am in a different room to usual, and that is because I realized that I spent way too much time worrying about how the background looked and how the lighting looked, that I started not enjoying filming because I was worried about how it looked, which is so dumb because I film because it's fun and I like making videos, and it made it not fun. So I'm sorry that it doesn't look as fun, but this is more enjoyable for me. So lately I've been feeling like an old man, which as I look at myself saying that sounds ridiculous. I am a baby, but every single time that I mention my age, I'm like, yeah, I'm 21. People are just like, you're not 21, you're like 14. You're like prepubescent. I get it, but also sometimes I just feel old because there are so many things that I hear about online nowadays that I would have kept up with when I was 15, and now I just don't. And I know I look youthful, but I'm not as down with the kids today as I used to be. I know it's obnoxious for young people to complain about feeling old. I don't actually feel old. We'll just get on with the video. So there's this new term, I think it's new, that I have been hearing a lot of recently. It's called gender envy. And I know I'm dedicating an entire video to it, but I'm still not quite sure what it means. But yeah, today, let's explore gender envy. It would be nice for us to go on this journey together. If you don't know what gender envy is, that's cool. I don't either. Or if you do know what gender envy is, you can just watch me struggle to understand it. I will, of course, be taking corrections in the comments section. So I first heard the term when I was looking through my Twitter indirects, which I know I shouldn't look through my Twitter indirects, and I know it makes me seem self-obsessed, which I'm not gonna lie. I wish YouTubers and, like, influencers would stop pretending that they're not even, like, slightly self-obsessed. Like, our job is taking pictures and videos of ourselves and being like, oh, other people want to see this. Like, I have come to terms with the fact that I am maybe too interested in what people think of me. But my self-obsession comes from anxiety. It does not come from loving myself. I'm just terrified of what people are gonna say, and you know what? I used to read my Twitter indirects, and they used to be mostly mean. And I was like, oh god, I need to know what people are saying about me because I need to know, like, if I'm doing something wrong. But now they're just nice. So, I was looking through my indirects, last night, and I came across these tweets. Noahfinnce, surrender your gender, and I may spare your toes from their inevitable demise. They want me to surrender my gender, and I'll do it. I enjoy having toes. I am not a foot fetishizer, but I think I have good feet. Beautiful curve, soft, supple skin. Obviously, like, I hate the internet, but I also love it. I also love that people have started calling me bestie now. Say hi, bestie, in the comments. We've also got this one. It says, Noahfinnce gives me a gender envy of the host. I think that is badly translated, but you get the point. And then the last one is, Noahfinnce, you've earned a spot on my gender envy list. I saw all these indirects for the first time last night, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Now that people are trying to steal my gender, it's personal. So my idea of what gender envy is at this moment in time is that a person will see the way that somebody else presents and be like, ooh, I want some of that. Give me some of your gender. Like, they see somebody and their presentation and they're like, I want to be like that. Which I can absolutely relate to with so many people. Anytime I see someone with cheekbones, I'm like, why? Why can I not have them? So here is what gender envy is, apparently. Gender envy is being envious of someone else's gender. It can be because of how they present, how they talk, how they act, anything that makes them envious of how they can't do it yet, but wish they could. So I think I understand that. The thing that is like in my head that's confusing me this entire time is like, you're jealous of someone's gender. I don't know what that means. Gender is how you identify personally, so surely if you're, like, jealous of somebody else's gender, then you're like, oh, that is my gender. But do you see why I'm confused? So here's a slightly different take on it. Someone said gender envy is like the new, oh my god, transition goals, kind of. I get gender envy from particular Project Revolution Frank Iero era, for example. The way he looks, the way he is, I want it. I envy his gender and him being so comfy in it. So, I get this so bad. I never looked for, like, trans representation. I was on a panel the other day, and, like, I was asked who I looked up to, like, which trans people I looked up to. I didn't do that. In my brain, pretty much my entire life, before I even knew that I was trans, the characters and the people that I wanted to grow up to be were just guys. Like, they were just men, they were just cis men. Like, I was obsessed with Spider-Man. I, like, looked up to Spider-Man, and I was like, I want to be Peter Parker. Whereas, like, nowadays, I still, like, I don't see someone's transition, and I'm like, oh, I want that. Because, like, to me, there's no merit in doing that. Like, there's no point, because everybody's body reacts differently to testosterone. And I feel like it's a thing in, like, the trans mass community, especially with, like, people that are preety. They see someone start testosterone, and the next month, they have a beard, and then the person's like, oh, I want that. Like, I want that. And it's just not like, I understand where that stems from, but it's just not realistic. Like, you look at my transition, I think about this often. I've been on testosterone for 3 years, and I do not have a single facial hair. You can barely see my Adam's apple. I'm skinny, and I look like a twink, and I have the body of, like, a 14-year-old child, and that's fine. But I don't know, I feel like there's gonna be less disappointment if, like, you're realistic about this kind of stuff. Like, I'm not gonna start testosterone and then look at The Rock and be like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna look like. Just to comment on what Luca said, I envy his gender and him being so comfy in it. I feel like, obviously, like, I must experience gender envy. Like, nothing is real. Like, gender envy, it is a feeling, it obviously exists, but whatever. Something that I have nowadays is that I don't look at someone and I think, I wanna look like them. Well, I do, that's a lie. I just lied. But the majority of the time when I'm like, oh, I want to be him, it's not because of how he looks, it's how he, like, presents his confidence. Like, I don't want to look like Youngblood. Like, Youngblood looks great, like, he's really cool, but, like, just seeing how confident he is, like, he could just walk out completely naked and be entirely comfortable with himself. I can't do that, but I aspire to have that level of confidence. So somebody else said, for me it's wanting someone's vibe, like an insane need to be perceived in the same way as someone else I think is cool or pretty because of how they look and or act. Which makes a lot of sense. My only confusion here is, like, when does something become gender envy? Like, sorry, when does something, I'm sure some people in the comments can answer this question, but, like, where is the line between wanting someone's vibe, like, enjoying how someone looks aesthetically and wanting that for yourself, and then where is the line between that and it being a gender thing? Because I have a feeling that it's, like, it's got, like, its feet in the trans community, but I'm just wondering where that translates. So this person said, some people think that having jealousy over an aesthetic means that they have gender envy. It makes cis people think they're trans when they just wish they had a certain general aesthetic about themselves. So I think this is, like, the line. Because, like, surely everybody sees a particular person. Surely everybody sees a particular person and they're like, wow, I really vibe with this person's vibe. I sound like a stoner half the time I talk. But, like, where does gender come into it? Will I find the answer to this? Or is there not really an answer? So that last tweet proves to me that there is, like, discourse surrounding this entire thing. I feel like anything gender related will eventually have discourse about it because, you know, trans people, we love a bit of a chat. The idea that I'm getting is that a lot of trans people are pissed off that some cis people are saying they have gender envy, when really what the cis people have is, like, a want for someone else's vibe. But then again, is that not what gender envy is? Am I wrong? Like, I don't know. So at this point, I don't really have an answer. So, you know, where are all the answers? Where is all the intelligent, discourse held? TikTok! Yep. Secondary only to Urban Dictionary. Obviously, I'm joking. Probably shouldn't get all your opinions from TikTok and all your, like, political views from there. But, like, TikTok is great. So I looked it up on TikTok, and apparently there's a bunch of gender envy discourse that I've been missing out on. So let's look at some gender envy TikToks. I feel like I should just point out, that I have missed out on this because the majority of my TikTok is videos of dogs. Here is my current favorite TikTok. So that's what I've been spending my time watching. I don't understand gender envy. I've never experienced it. That's just a bunch of anime characters, right? This is just making me more confused. I'm assuming this person just likes the look of people who look androgynous. I feel like anime characters always look really androgynous. So now we've got gender envy, but it makes less and less sense. I get it. Okay, so we got Roderick, which is a good choice. We got Robin Hood, who is a fox, which really confuses me. I haven't seen this Robin Hood. Why is he a fox? The guy from Robots kind of makes sense, because I swear, like, he started off with, like, girl robot pieces. Canon trans man. But then we end up with, like, sleeves, and books, and coffee, guitar. I get it. I understand. What has it got to do with gender? I was thinking about this the other day, and it sounds very not like me. It just sounds really wanky. But there is definitely an experience that trans people have that we cannot explain to cis people in regards to this kind of stuff. Like, our relationship to the rest of the world is obviously going to be different to cis people's relationship to the rest of the world. but my experience in terms of this, like, every aspect of my life, including, like, my presentation, the people I surround myself with, I always relate myself to them in terms of, like, oh, I'm shorter than this person, so to the rest of the world, I look like a girl. Or like, oh, this person has a deeper voice than me, I am the woman in the relationship. Even though it's like, I don't know. Like, there's this unspoken shared experience that we all have, and I definitely get how that reflects onto, like, a picture of some coffee. A picture of a guitar. I feel like I'm probably looking into this way too deeply. I think I understand it. So I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that this started off as, like, trans terminology. Somebody said earlier that it's like the equivalent of like, oh my god, transition goals. I've got the impression that this started as like a trans thing, and then everybody was just like, oh, I like the term gender envy, and then kind of like scooped it up, and they were like, I experienced this. Which I don't think cis people can experience that kind of feeling in the same way that trans people can. And that's not to say that, like, cis people can't look at people that they admire, or people that they, like, enjoy the vibe of, and, like, not envy them. But surely that would just be envy. That wouldn't be gender envy. But I guess, like, if I was cis, and I was looking at a guy that was wearing a dress, and I was like, oh, gender envy. But surely that would just be like their presentation of their actual gender. I don't know. So this TikTok says, if you're cis and you've ever claimed to experience gender envy, you owe me $20. Which is funny. I think that's funny. I can imagine, like, being a trans... I was about to say I can imagine being a trans person. But I can imagine being a trans person very heavily into this gender envy thing, and seeing it start out as, like, a trans thing, like, oh, transition goals, and then it being, like, swept up and turned into a different thing. That would be frustrating. I would like to hear your thoughts on that in the comments. Have I got that completely wrong? I think I've got it kind of right. So I also found this TikTok, and it says, you're not experiencing gender envy, you just think they're pretty. Which is a fair point, I think. I think for trans people especially, seeing a person whose, like, presentation you wish you could have is such a strong feeling, especially pre-transition. Like, obviously, if you're, like, a 13-year-old cis girl and you see, like, a really pretty, like, grown-up woman, you're like, I want to be her. That's one thing, but, like, from my experience, being, like, a 14-year-old pre-transition girl, seeing Frank Iero, the longing that I had to look like that was, like, I was gonna say almost painful. It was painful, because there was, like, no part of my brain that could, like, ever compute me looking like that. It wasn't just the fact that he, like, had a nice jawline and he had, like, cool hair. It was the fact that, like, biologically, we could not be more different, which is an absolute lie. Like, female and males are not that different. But I was, like, so far removed in my presentation to this guy that, like, the feeling I had was, like, it wasn't even just envy. It was, like, sadness. I would literally look at pictures of guys that I thought, like, had my vibe. I'd look at them and just, like, get really upset and really sad, and I'd compare myself to them constantly. I would, like, get a picture of, like, a 30-year-old man and look at his waist to shoulder ratio, and then, like, take pictures of myself from behind where you could see that I had, like, a pinched waist and tiny shoulders, and I'd constantly be like, wow, like, I will never, ever, ever look like that. And it wasn't even just in the sense of, like, oh, they're better looking than me, like, oh, they have, like, a nicer body than me. It was this, like, disgusting disconnect that I wouldn't wish on anybody, but I don't think, unless it's, like, an experience of, like, body dysmorphia, which is, like, kind of similar, I don't think that's something that cis people really experience. And even in the way that I'm, like, describing it, I can see, like, gaps in the things that I've said that could make people be like, no, it's the same thing, we all get that. But I know in my brain that it's not, I just can't get the words out right. So, like, I 100% understand that frustration. So I thought what would be fun to end this video is if I told you my gender envy list, which I have just written down now, and it is not complete. I just thought it would be fun. So here's just a fun memory that I had while filming this video. When me and my brother were really, really young, on the weekends, we would wake up really, really early and run downstairs as fast as we could, sit in front of the TV, and immediately, like, Bagsy the characters that we wanted to be. Bagsy means, like, shotgun, like Bagsy shotgun. Or, like, Dibs. I don't know, like, we don't all speak the same language. But we'd be like, oh, Bagsy Spider-Man, or, like, Bagsy Zack from Zack and Cody, Bagsy Drake from Drake and Josh. It would always be boys. It would never be girls, which is really funny. Like, even, like, as a very young child, I was like, no. Man. But yeah, for some reason, we just did that. It made no sense. It had no bearing on the rest of the day. But yeah, I identified with characters back then. So my gender envy list. Kovu from The Lion King 2. I feel like I don't need to explain this. Every kid that watched The Lion King 2 looked at Kovu and was like, he's a good-looking lion. And I'm not attracted to animals. I'm not kin with animals. I'm not a furry. Nothing against furries. But, you know, Kovu from The Lion King 2, I wanted to be him. I knew I would never achieve that. I also had gender envy for Jake from the Tweenies. He was so orange, he had blonde hair. I always wanted blonde hair. I had blonde hair when I was a kid, and then it went brown, and I got so upset, and now my hair is yellow. I also have gender envy for Frank Iero. Very obviously why. Very obviously why? What? It is very obvious why. He made me want to start guitar, and it's not that I just, like, looked up to him. I wanted to be him so bad that it hurt. But just seeing how much he lost it on stage, and, like, how comfortable he was in himself with doing that, gender envy. I had gender envy, with this guy from Freaks and Geeks. I don't know why. I just wanted to be somebody's little brother, because I was always someone's little sister. I guess this gender envy list is just a list of people who I wanted to be. I can't think up right now who I gender envy, but, you know, I'm sure it's there somewhere. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of gender envy. Do you think it's just like a specific trans experience? Do you think it doesn't matter if you're trans or cis? Do you think everybody can experience it? Let me know down in the comments what you think. I'm genuinely interested, and I want to learn if this is even something that, like, can be objective. But yeah, that was the end of the video. How do you feel about it? Why did I ask that? But yeah, I definitely enjoy, just setting up a camera and a light and filming. I don't enjoy giving a shit about how the background looks or how, like, lights look. It's cool for other people. It gives me anxiety, and it's also probably the reason why I haven't been filming as many videos as I usually did, because it stresses me out thinking, oh god, I gotta set up. But yeah, it's the end of the video. Have a good day or don't. Who do you gender envy? Have a good day or don't. See you later, losers. Goodbye. Time for a punch. I have 2 rings on this hand, but no rings on this hand. What does that mean?